Welcome to Voices in Nursing with Dr. Nozil, Policy, Care, and Leadership. Today's conversation addresses one of the most urgent challenges in healthcare, the nursing forces crisis through a trauma-informed lens. Beyond staffing numbers and vacancies rate, this discussion centered on the lived experience of nurses and faculty who have endured cumulative professional trauma, moral injury, and systemic strain. In this episode, we will explore how unaddressed trauma shape burnout, turnover, and faculty shortage, and why traditional solutions are no longer enough. Our guest today will offer critical insight into trauma responsive leadership, academic culture, and policy driven solution to rebuild psychological safety and sustain the nursing workforce. Together, we will examine what must change now and what gives hope for the future of nursing. Before we continue, I would like to recognize GA Healthcare Training and Consulting, the proud sponsor of Voices in Nursing with Dr. Nozil. GA Healthcare Training and Consulting is dedicated to advancing excellence in healthcare education, workforce development, and community safety through higher training, quality care, professional development, and consulting services. Their commitment to empowering healthcare professionals and strengthening system aligns with our mission to elevate the voices of nurses and drive meaningful change in care, policy, and leadership. Without further ado, let's welcome Dr. Erlange Elisme. Hello, Dr. Elisme.
Hey, good afternoon, Dr. Nozil. Thank you so much for such a wonderful introduction and also for inviting me to come and speak on this timely issue. So, thank you.
Thank you. And in the introduction, I didn't say much about you because I want you to tell the listener, whoever's watching you now, tell us about Dr. Elisme.
Okay, I'm Dr. Erlangelis May, a child of Haiti. My my doctoral degree is in social work. I'm a social worker by practice with a specialization with trauma informed care, leadership, and practice. I also went to further my education by getting a certification from Harvard Medical School on global mental health trauma and recovery. And I have other certification and advanced clinical work with human trafficking, um, victims of human trafficking.
Okay, good, very good. So that's a well range of experience with trauma because I can tell you when being on healthcare for that long, to me, a lot of stress that we going through, staffing, bedside nursing, I think they're normal, but I've never heard they say trauma informed nursing.
Hmm.
So what is it something new or is it people just don't acknowledge it or the profession don't acknowledge the trauma that it can be to our profession?
I think the trauma field, the way we're talking about it today, the trauma that you have in the hospital where people go to the emergency room, etc. Trauma that we acknowledge now started in the 1990s after Kaiser Permanente did the study. And they found that at that time, 67% of college educated Anglo um, people from here in the United States experience at least one adverse childhood. And I think during that time, they started to talk more about trauma informed care. So, what trauma informed care is acknowledging that people may have had adverse experiences. And as professionals, as nurses, as social workers, as educators, we need to take that into account when we are working with people who may have had adverse experiences.
Okay. From a trauma informed lens, how do you interpret the current nursing workforce crisis right now?
So, when we're talking about the nursing workforce crisis, we're talking about not just the vacancy rates, we're talking about people who are leaving in large number, right?
Right.
We're talking also about um, high accuracy of stress,
Yes.
repeated exposure to loss. We're talking about moral conflict and responsibility that far exceeds the resources people are given to meet it. So many nurses have been practicing in what I would call survival mode,
Hmm.
where the nervous system is constantly scanning for the next thing that might go wrong with very little space to come down and reset. We see this in several ways: persistent staffing shortages, increased patient acuity, rising violence
Hmm.
and incivility,
Hmm.
and growing documentation and productivity demands. At the same rate, we see burnout, compassion fatigue, and secondary traumatic stress that remain high among nurses, and leadership behavior is consistently identified as a factor that can either deepen or buffer that stress. So, from that vantage point, leaving the profession is not a failure of
Hmm.
commitment. When the body and mind are constantly signaling this is not safe, this is not sustainable, stepping away becomes an adaptive response. So it is the nervous system choosing survival over continued exposure to harm. So rather than seeing nurses as abandoning the profession, as a trauma informed person myself, the question that I think we need to ask is, what is it about our systems that makes it so easy for people to live?
So now, Dr. Elisme, how about if somebody liked the professions? It's a good professions. I love it. I love what I do. What can we do on leadership level to help alleviate that, to prevent healthcare professionals or healthcare providers from being stressed? Because as we know, we can't have nurses leaving the professions like that. We have to find a solution.
Well, yes, there are solutions, and it's not easy. It's for leaders to become conscientious, to understand what is happening, what is going on. It's not that people need more motivation. We need to talk about resetting the safety, because if people do not feel safe, even if we're talking just about the nervous system, they
Mhm.
are feeling unsafe. So leadership has a huge role in changing what is going on. Yes, people do not because they don't like the profession, they because physiologically they cannot do it.
Okay. So, personal experience. So, as I remember the first time I met you, that was International Women of Hope, a
Right.
retreat.
Yes.
Yes. When
Mhm.
I met you on the retreat, so you can be honest, I was working then, right? So I know you're not saying anything because I can say my own personal thing. I, I was broken because that time, I'm going to tell you what makes me more angry at that time. My dad passed away, and he was on a hospital in Florida in the hands of nurses and doctors. That was for me purely negligence that caused my dad death. I was there watching it. And myself, as a professional who's been a nurse on the professions for over 24, 25 years as an ICU nurse and rapid response, I can see everything that they can do to save my dad. I'm not saying that my dad will survive their intervention, but I know that was intervention that they're supposed to do. They didn't do it. That breaks me. I felt that the nursing, my colleagues fails me.
Mhm.
As a professor myself, I teach a major university. I've questioned myself, why am I teaching nursing? I remember when I've met you, had the group sessions, and I had a breakout that day. Then it helps me. It was bittersweet. I wanted to publicly acknowledge you, to say thank you, to help me to open up, to speak about my experience, my live experience, and able to regroup. And I thank you very much. When I was angry like that.
So it could be a bunch of things that um together, right?
Yeah.
It could be the profession that you also experience, having been a nurse for so many years. You have also experienced the trauma that we're talking about as a person, as a nurse yourself. But I think there was a sense of, what do I do now? What can I do to make changes if I could not even protect my own dad? So there was that too, that I'm trying to find the word, like the inability to make changes that help people. And you were probably looking at it from a system point of view, because a system, if we do not work to change them, they do not see the pain that is being inflicted on us. So there were many different things that collided. Plus, you were grieving, which is normal also. And it was early grief because you did not expect what happened to happen, and with everything else that may bring to the surface. But what I heard at that time, I heard the, like, you felt like nobody really cared
Yeah.
for the patient.
Yes,
um,
I felt that they did not care enough, because they were talking about age, that I was angry. I was exhausted. I was hopeless, helpless.
mhm,
And then my job, they told me, well, you have 3 days to come back to work.
mhm. Yes,
That's another blow to my
that,
brain, to my
yes,
soul, to
yes,
every fiber in my body.
yes.
It's
And
just like to me, leadership did not even look at what I was going through emotionally, physically.
mhm,
And then they just want me to come to work, tell me, oh, you only have 3 days to grieve.
mhm. I spoke yesterday at the Chamber of Commerce, and I talk about this exact thing, that sometimes we as leaders need to be a little bit more flexible in the way we support our people, because it's going to cost us if we don't do what we need to do for them.
Mhm.
Instead of saying you have 3 days, and I understand that they probably said that because they have a shortage and they
Yeah.
want you to come back, and so on and so forth. But still, your pain was real. And I
Mhm.
don't think they even acknowledge you to say, You know what, Dr. Nozil, I know what you are going through. I know it's hard, but you are part of our team. Maybe when you come, we will hug you. You know, something
Oh, mhm,
effect. And when you don't feel like you are part of a team, that you matter to people, then you can burn out also,
mhm.
because there are other conditions that existed even before that. And instead of nurturing you, so you can reintegrate, they just tell you, well, this is what we need to do. And I understand that sometimes leaders have to do what they have to do,
Mhm.
but we need to look at the bigger pictures now, because they need you to be there to continue to be healthy so you can give people the best care
Mhm.
possible. The way they dealt with it was a little bit, you know,
I
business.
think it's just business oriented. They have
Mhm.
to conduct business, but sometimes I don't feel like to be count as a number. I want to be feel as human
Mhm.
rather than numbers. So
Mhm.
it was kind of hard for me to deal with. It makes me feel like don't care. I don't know if my colleagues feel the same. Some of them probably feel the same. Like it's a business, it's a number, you don't matter. It kind of hurts to feel like you give your heart and soul and you care for patients and then you do all this, go above and beyond work 13, 14 hours a day. They'll treat you like a number, like you're not even human. It doesn't quite fit well in my brain.
A moral injury is really crucial and often misunderstood as part of this story. You know, I don't think they stopped and saw you with the pain that you came, the exhaustion that you had, the, you know, the disappointment that you had. And perhaps that day, if they said, okay, you please come and do the best that you can, because you know we care a whole lot about you and your well-being,
Mhm.
I think you probably would have seen it differently. Now, nursing is a different beast than many professions, where people are not really allowed to come and say, well, this is what's hurting. Um,
Mhm.
Emotions are very important now for us to acknowledge that people can have very complex emotions where you're feeling the pain, but also there can be hope. And I think when we realize that and allow people to come and say, yes, I am struggling now, you are actually giving them voice so you can help them become hopeful again.
Mhm. Mhm.
Mhm.
What leadership practices are most effective in restoring psychological safety for nurses or for healthcare providers?
Well, for a long time, our dominant response was to focus on individual resilience,
Mhm.
self care, mindfulness, yoga. We tell people to do that. While there is nothing wrong with doing all that, those tools are very valuable, but in isolation, they send a problematic message. You are responsible for adapting to conditions that might, in fact, be harmful. So, leaders who really want to use a trauma responsive way, they can turn that equation around. You know, look at the structures. How do the structures, the policies, the norms either reduce or amplify stress? Are we designing work in a way that honors human physiology?
Mhm.
Are we expecting people to override their nervous system indefinitely? We know that if we're doing that indefinitely, long term, it's not going to work. Short term, people will be productive, but long term, it's not going to help.
Mhm.
So, practically, what we need to do, staffing models that reflect the actual acuity and complexity of patients, not just budget lines,
I hear you.
predictable scheduling, right? Limits on mandatory overtime, and genuine protection of rest period. And
Mhm.
including well, you lost your dad, that's huge, right? And
Mhm.
that should be taken into consideration. Built-in mechanisms for decompression and debriefing after high impact events, not
Mhm.
just informal hallway conversations.
Yeah.
Transparency, also transparent communication, so that people are not constantly bracing for the next change or surprise. Research is beginning to explore trauma informed leadership strategies and nursing education and practice. They are highlighting approaches that promote safety, trust, collaboration, and empowerment
Mhm.
as core leadership competencies. So I hope that these, if leaders are listening, and these things are things that we can do, not on a big, large scale, but at least in my unit, what can I change to make it better for the people I'm responsible for and the people who are responsible to give care to patients?
Mhm. In the hospital, they usually have chaplain. We all know that chaplain usually for patients. When chaplains, I don't think can help nurses us with stress. Hospital probably need more. Hospital have some kind of sessions that give you six for the year
Mm-hmm.
anonymously to speak with somebody. And I still don't think that's even enough
Mm-hmm.
for the amount of stress that healthcare needed. I think probably needed to do more than that. So I used a chaplain one time. It was in 2010 when they had the earthquake in Haiti.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Haiti just like 3 days after the earthquake, and there was another earthquake, post earthquake that happened again, a 7.0. I was like devastated. I was on like in the street, helping out, and I was by the airport. We were living on the street on the car, and I could. I've spent almost like 3 weeks. I didn't have enough sleep because at night when I was sleeping, not completely asleep. A lot of places where I was we was sleeping actually on the street. When I get back, I was in the emergency room. When I get back to the state in Georgia, I was standing on the emergency room talking with one of my colleagues. And I felt that the room was shaking, the
Mm-hmm.
emergency room. And I said, "What? Did you feel that?" I was telling my coworkers. They said, "No." And then it was devastated to feel when they call a chaplain for me, they told me that was post traumatic experience from going to Haiti. Post traumatic feeling is real. It's
Mm-hmm.
real. Because nobody could tell me that emergency room wasn't shaking because I felt it.
Mm-hmm.
That time I saw a chaplain and then I had to take 2 weeks off after that with some other therapy. You can have a patient passed away and then it can be traumatized, especially if you to that patient, you've been taking care of that patient for weeks and then passed away, that can cause trauma too, right?
Mhm. And you may or may not even know the patient for
Mhm.
that long. It may be your first encounter. If it triggers something and you may feel the same impact
Mhm.
because we are human beings. Nurses, you have to care in order to do this. When you care for people and you see them dying, yes, you experience it vicariously. You experience the trauma. So let's go back to the chaplain. For many people, the chaplain will work because we know not every nurse believes in that religious background of the chaplain. And I don't know how that works because I have not had that experience. Um, I wonder if someone is, let's say, Muslim and how that works for them.
Oh, because a chaplain can see anybody. They don't. They don't have a specific religion. They are non-denominational.
Okay.
They
Okay.
pray to do whatever the patients.
Okay.
Most of the religion will use a chaplain because they're non-denominational. They can see anybody, everybody. Yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
they'll help people, not like a therapy or group therapy that you have with a therapist or with a group therapy.
Mhm. Yeah. So it's probably what they call
Yes.
psychological first aid.
Yes.
I wanted to go back to the leadership and talk a little bit about trauma-informed leadership behaviors
Mhm.
for the nursing staff for hospitals. Being emotionally present and accessible, not only visible on paper or in metrics. Listening without immediate defensiveness or minimization of staff or when they raise a concern. Naming reality honestly, including limitations, instead of gaslighting people about the severity of their situation. We are human, and I know leaders want to protect themselves, want to protect the system, and sometimes we need to just be real,
Mhm.
creating structured recurring spaces um, where nurses can process difficult events. And I think the chaplain situation is one where they have the chaplain and also the 6 sessions that they allow for the staff really is good. Do we have people who are open, who can offer feedback? Can we offer feedback to the leader and let them know that maybe this might work for me, this may not work for me, as long as it's done in a mutually respect manner? And so these are things that I think leaders may consider in order to heal their unit and then create a cohesive environment for everyone.
Yeah. On healthcare, I am not sure it's everybody really seeking therapy or thinking stress at work can make a toll to the body. They'll accept it and move on. I've done that for years. I have to get stronger. Yes, you have to get thick skin.
Mhm.
You don't want to be called weak. You want to be strong. You want to be able to face everything and dodge everything. Just like enough is enough.
Mhm. Well, you know what? People can have a thick skin, but when you are caring for people, the thick skin that you have is for you to do what you need to do. But inside, you have that core that needs to be nurtured, regardless of, let's say, for myself, I did not choose to be a nurse because I really cannot work with a lot of blood, right?
Mhm.
But if I work in the field and I see it all the time, or when I give birth to my child, if my child has a cut or something, I'm going to do the job that needs to be done, right? But I need to understand also, if I continually do that job, it's taking something away from me because I am still a human being. I may be a
Mhm.
mom, I may be a nurse, but those things chip away from you, and sometimes you're not even aware that
Mhm.
you are getting, exhausted, from all of it.
Yeah. So, Dr. Elise, how does uh, addressing, under address trauma contribute to the nursing faculty shortage?
Now, just like the example you gave, they ask you to have thick skin.
Yeah.
Um, if they continue to do that, it's as though they're blaming the victim, right? Blaming the victim for a, living in an environment that is harmful. And the environment is not harmful because people are mean, it just be the nature of what you do, right? when we talk about the nursing shortage, we often frame it as a pipeline problem, not enough people going into teaching. A trauma-informed lens, however, invites a different question. How many skilled nurses and educators have left
Mhm.
or chosen not to enter academia because the condition felt unsafe? So many faculty members carry their own history
Yeah.
of clinical trauma into academia or into nursing. They are expected to teach, mentor, heal, treat, conduct research, write grants, and serve communities, often with limited resources.
Yeah. I can tell you from my experience when I work as a ICU nurse, I was in a hospital, but if you have like 3 days, you work your full times, and after that, you can make overtime. So not you can work agency. I will go to an agency, they just throw me on the floor. Hey, here's that this unit, that patient, that I have the skills, but I don't know the environment.
Mhm,
So it is my responsibility to get to know that environment within like few minutes that I have to get there.
mhm,
If I have to start at 7, I have to come at 6:30 to look at the layout of the floor.
mhm,
Sometimes they will provide you some orientation for a couple of hours or for 4 hours, but it's just that quick,
mhm,
hurry up, look around, and you're on your own. And it's the lack of resources, yeah, all those kind of things you getting in your brain. It's become like a norm for me to go on an environment where I don't know anybody or anything. I have a few minutes to understand what's in the supplies room that they have for patients if I went out of the country or out of the state to work,
mhm, mhm,
or if I worked as an agency nurse to go somewhere else.
mhm,
And then you work like 12, 13 hours. And then it depends how your day went. And sometimes if you work 12 hours and you have a patient that was declining at the end of your shift, then you have to wait to complete that shift. It's another stress in your body. And then when you get home, you just went numb.
mhm, mhm,
And it's like physical, emotional, and that toll that went over the body.
mhm. And that is what I hear all the time. People are just doing it. They go into the motion. And guess what? That's the reason we have a lot of errors. You know, people don't mean to not care for other people. But if I cannot care for myself, if I cannot care for my soul, then I'm apt to making mistakes, and this is why it's so important that we need to look at academia, the way we teach nurses, the way we treat our professors, but also the way we practice either at the hospital or any healthcare places that we have. So we need to be more cognizant and then make some changes so we can look at the person and environment. How do we help so they can last, they can do their job with dignity, because all the nurses want to do a good job. Um,
Yes.
and I can say that because as a social worker, I know I want to do a great job. But when my environment is not conducive to that, it's harder for me to be at my best.
Yes. Um, Dr. Elisme, so I would like you to speak with our leaders and healthcare, not only for nurses, for any leaders that is on healthcare, like trauma informs therapy for staff, or have like a group therapy. I think that is essential for them to have on a unit. And can you tell our leaders who's listening right now, how effective that would benefit the professions or the healthcare providers or the healthcare system to produce work effectively or for sustainable to help the future nurses.
I really think that the model moving forward should include some form of support. The support could be including or embedding some psychological safety, recovery time, and staffing into regulatory standards and funding priorities. And with that, mm, they may treat mental health support as a core workforce protection, not an optional add-on. You
Yeah.
know, and I don't know about the model that they may use. At least they can start with training. And I think that if they start with training, people become aware of what is going on. A lot of times we don't do something about it because we're not aware. And
So
the
you
training would, yes, yes, the
you
training.
mean training with new hires or training and leadership trainings like every 3 months or
You know,
what your suggestion?
I think it should be leadership training first and training for the staff too. Because if leaders are not aware, they cannot make implementations, they cannot create a psychologically safe environment because they're not aware. As I said, it's not because they don't want to, but if you don't know something is wrong, you just, do what you have to do because they were trained a certain way to provide certain services. They have certain metrics to meet, they have all that. But now they need to look at it in a like system wide. How do we make some changes for that? Now, I cannot say that they need it every 3 months or whatever, but at least there should be a start where we're talking more about what is going on and what can I do to make this better.
Yeah. And then, but we are human. Not everybody's the same. The reason I say 3 months, it might be even earlier for some
Mm-hmm,
people. And some people we don't handle stress the same way. Some people might need more frequent. It doesn't mean that they're crazy. It doesn't mean that's something's, worse happening because there's the stigma with getting therapy, with getting counseling.
mm-hmm,
And then that's why some people get sick about it. I have a friend of mine, a colleague who died. And I think he died. It was that's from the family. She called me and told me how stressful she was about the workplace where she was given options for her to retired or she'll get fired. And then that's happened on the 21st, and she died 4 days later.
mm-hmm.
And that's stress.
Well, the heavy news about trauma is that it does shorten life because of all the things that it takes away from you. People do get sick because of trauma that they've experienced, unaddressed trauma that they've experienced. And people can die early. That's what research says, you know. But those things also can be reduced if leadership is aware, if leadership wants to make some changes, and believe me, it's not a whole lot. It just maybe some adjustments that need to be done to help people for us to treat our workers in whatever field more humanly than we do now. Those things can help a whole lot.
Mhm. I understand you go to different hospitals and institutions and go on the conferences. What do you do when you go to the organization?
Well, I've been asked to just do a training And that training is the awareness part. It depends. Sometimes it's a 1 hour training where we give brief information, but sometimes they ask me to do a 3 hour and training where we talk through my different framework, like the anchor framework, about the different things we can do at the leadership level and at the individual level help people cope with what is going on. And I have the ability also
Go ahead.
I have the ability also to work as a consultant where I create a framework for that um, hospital or healthcare. uh, just look at the whole system and see how we can come and provide support services that may be helpful. I'm more on the training side now,
Okay.
so people can be aware. And then, if we need to move to the group or individual life coaching for me, because I do life coaching as opposed to therapy. And it's my personal preference, and I have many reasons for that. But I can work with individuals, or I can work with a group of nurses or group of leaders, whatever they need to do at that time, whatever commitment they want to make.
Okay. So I like the conversation that we had at the retreat. So I would like for the viewer to have your information while they're watching this in case they wanted to contact you, in case institutions wanted to contact you to get some information. I will ask you later on to give me those information or send it to me so I can put them together with this recording so they can have, because I want it, it helps me, you help me, and I want you to help other people also, my colleagues and people that wanted to reach out to help the nurses, to help the workforce, and to help other professional nursing. So,
Thank
Dr.
you.
Elise, I wanted to thank you very much for coming. Can I call you my friend? You're my friend.
Oh, yes.
All right.
Yes.
Because let me tell you, I can call or I can refer you or have other people with you because I've enjoyed our conversations before and it helps me and I want them to help everybody else. All
Okay.
right.
Let
Okay.
me say the number, my phone number now, and then I will give my email address.
Mhm.
And also I'm on LinkedIn. And my
Okay.
phone number is 678-595-6446. And the
Okay.
best way to reach me though is via email, elismay at elismayconsultingservices.com.
Thank you very much, Dr. Elise.
Thank you. That was a wonderful, well, hard conversation, but wonderful conversation nonetheless.
Yeah. Hold on. Don't go away yet.
Mhm.
As we close today's conversation, we are reminded that the nursing workforce crisis is not simply a staffing issue, it is a human issue rooted lived experience, trauma, and the need for meaningful system change. Healing the profession requires trauma informed leadership, supportive academy and practice environment, and policy that protect nurses' well-being while honoring their invaluable contribution. Thank you for joining us on Voices Nursing with Dr. Nozil, Care, Policy, and Leadership, and for being part of the ongoing to restore, sustain, and strengthen the future of nursing. If you like this program or what we're doing, please share, subscribe, and see you next time. Thank you.